Hey everybody, it's Mike Young, lifestyle nutritionist with aPlantBasedDiet.org and Forever Young Nutrition Coaching. So welcome to this video on coffee. And if you have followed the channel, you know that I've made some statements in the past where I have said that coffee is really, really bad for people in general. And there's other folks that I know that I've also conveyed this, that coffee and tea are just poisons. There's a lot of information circulating around on the internet about that. And I, at one point, said I was giving up coffee, but I still will drink maybe, I'd say 0 to 4 cups a week. Okay. It's very infrequent. And this is the true barometer of what I'm drinking. By the way, I want to make sure that you know this is accurate. It's not much. I know that most people who drink coffee or tea or something like that, they can't drink that little like that, and it becomes a daily habit. It's not with me. All right, but I wanted to kind of take a deep dive into coffee and things circulating around on the internet. I found this one thing recently, so I want to kind of talk about that, read it word for word, and then I will give you my thoughts and comments on that. It's called Facts About Coffee. 13 little known facts about coffee. The coffee deception. All right, you're not going to like this one bit. You've been lied to about the health benefits of coffee. First of all, let me say, I have never heard of any health benefits, unless it was obvious someone in the industry was trying to just pull the vegan wool over your eyes. It's just like people have been saying the health benefits of red wine type of stuff, all right? Or the health benefits of moderation of other animal products, especially fish, things like this. People always want to hear good things about their bad habits. So here is a list of 13 things. Number 1, caffeine is an alkaloid that the coffee plant uses to kill bugs, which eats its seeds. Bugs that eat its seeds. The coffee plant also uses caffeine in the coffee pods to kill surrounding plants. So the coffee plant can attain more sunlight and grow larger. Well, plants are in a very competitive environment if they're outdoors and are not being hyper looked at by humans or weed pulling robots or chemicals. Caffeine is a pesticide which causes genetic termination in living cells that comes into contact with it. Wait, read that again. Caffeine is a pesticide which causes genetic termination in living cells that come into contact with it. I'm already highly suspect of that. Okay, number 2, MRI images taken before and after 1 cup of coffee showed a decrease in blood flow to the brain by 45%. When the blood flow reduction was measured exactly, it was actually 52% less blood flow to the brain after just 1 small cup of coffee. Number 3, brain imaging studies of chronic coffee drinkers showed this is chronic coffee drinkers. So this would be someone who's got a daily caffeine or daily coffee habit. Showed they presented the same degradation in their brain as chronic alcoholics, cigarette smokers, Parkinson's patients, and marijuana users. All right, number 4. Coffee can cause an urge to move one's bowels. Okay, I can agree. I can attest to that. Absolutely, it does. I think that there's all kinds of memes all over the internet that show that. So this is not. I'm not going to disagree with this. I'm telling you right now, because this is one way the body tries to eliminate the poison from the system. Now that is the question of why. I don't know. The sudden urge to poo after drinking coffee is one of the body's defense mechanisms to poison. Number 5, coffee increases energy via the human fight or flight metabolic response because the body is afraid of the caffeine-based poison. Coffee doesn't give energy, it removes energy from the body. The energy a person feels when they drink coffee is the body going into overdrive because caffeine is a poison. And all poisons activate an energy release in the body, fight or flight. Interesting. Coffee removes energy from the system, leaving the person progressively more and more exhausted each day that passes, therefore setting up the world's most dangerous energy stimulation addiction, coffee dependence for energy. That's very interesting. Number 6, we're only halfway, not even halfway through. When the fight or flight response is triggered in the body, the lower IQ centers of the brain are activated, as well as hormonal symptoms in control of aggression, violence, irrational and illogical decision-making, jealousy, rage, anger, fear, and paranoia. Coffee generates lower end mental functioning with a side of every negative emotional response the body can generate. Wow, that does not sound good, huh? Now we're halfway done. Number 7, when measured, 1 coffee activated the fight and flight response for 3 consecutive weeks, even though no other caffeine was consumed after that 1 cup of coffee. It activated the fight. So they're saying that just 1 cup of coffee will trigger a bunch of a downward spiral that lasts for 3 weeks. And I guess things will return to normal after that. 1 cup of coffee poisons the body for 3 consecutive weeks on a decreasing scale. So it gets less and less over time, but 3 weeks is the elimination period. Number 8, when coffee, in parentheses caffeine, is consumed, the limbic part of the brain is hyperactivated and the higher learning centers of the mind inhibited. The limbic part of the brain is only concerned with sex, reproduction, protection of territory, food acquisition, and personal safety. The limbic portion of the brain is the most primitive and least developed portion of the mind complex. When you want to get outsmart or dominate another person, it's best that their limbic system is activated because it brings them to a mental state equal to that of a child. Number 9, the birth control pill inhibits clearing of ingested caffeine. So I guess we're talking only about women. It doesn't say if, something about male birth control pills, which are out there. This effect is increased dramatically by alcohol or painkiller use, therefore causing many cases of caffeine poisoning. So it gets amplified, is what they're saying. Huh? It inhibits clearing of ingested caffeine. So in a way, it amplifies the stimulation effect of the caffeine and creates caffeine poisoning, which gets treated as other things once that person reaches the hospital. Number 10, coffee is proven to cause an enlarged prostate, high anxiety, insomnia, depression, birth defects, pain syndromes, unnatural breathing patterns, brain damage, hyperactivity, learning disorders from the brain damage, behavior disorders, fatigue, certain types of cancer, Crohn's, IBS, colitis, carpal tunnel, ulcers, low iron, heart disease, headaches, PMS, increased incidence of muscle and tendon injury, joint pain, heart attack, stroke, TIAs, which are mini strokes, and that's a short list. Well, I won't even comment on that yet. Number 11, coffee causes fat gain and cellulite because by triggering the body's fight or flight system, which any poison or threat does, this eventually changes the body's primary fuel source requirement to one of fat. When the body is threatened, it prefers fat as its primary fuel source over sugar or protein. When the body is threatened. Constant activation of the body's fight or flight system via the daily ingestion of the caffeine poison aids in a metabolic shift to fat storage and fat conservation, because again, the body prefers fat as a fuel source when fighting any toxic intruder, because fat contains 9 calories per gram for the fight, as opposed to 4 calories per gram housed by sugar or protein. That's a correct statement in terms of the calorie density. Welcome to the land of coffee, caffeine-induced weight gain and cellulite. Coffee also destroys muscle as the body purposely flushes muscle when it's poisoned to facilitate additional fat storage. And finally, number 12, coffee or caffeine, parentheses, blocks iron absorption, causing the vast majority of anemia today. Okay, so this is, actually, that's not the last one. There's 13, lucky number 13. Here's the rest of 12. The entire thread of caffeine in general includes caffeine teas, chocolates, because cocoa or cacao has caffeine in it, teas, caffeine teas, chocolates, caffeine-based energy drinks, caffeine-based pre-workout drinks, and over 2,000 over-the-counter and prescription medications that purposely include caffeine. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of medications, especially over-the-counters, have caffeine in it. Because they don't really do anything. Most of the medications don't do anything. They're just managing symptoms. They don't actually fix or cure anything. Interesting. Got to keep that in mind. That's an interesting point, though, that these medications have caffeine in them. Number 13, an investigation conducted by the author of the most extensive book on coffee ever written, they don't mention it, what it was, reviewed almost every scientific research piece regarding coffee, and his conclusion was that there's absolutely no scientific evidence whatsoever that coffee provides any health benefits to the human body on any level in any way. And I would agree with that. I don't know of any. I wouldn't call it a health food, and it's a drink. And as you know from the work that we do here with the nonprofit, and you can read more about it in our book, Live to 150 at live250.org. That's below, the link's below. But yeah, water is the beverage of choice. Anything else is off. It's not health optimizing. He openly declares that any positive promotion of coffee consumption is a blatant lie. Positive promotion. Well, everybody, including animal products industries and everything else, they always have some good things to say. Of course, that's their marketing, right? And we know what marketing is. It's blatant lies. For the most part. It's funny. It's like the beer commercials for the cheap American beers. They never mention the product. They're always showing something else or talking about something else. Doing grave harm to our entire society. The publication of any positive effects of coffee are false, and all can be traced back to a very powerful, covert, and secret, quote, coffee lobby, unquote. Of course, that's true with almost all things. All things where the status quo is less than optimal and will be replaced with something better, they're always lobbying to keep that money flowing in. And they have lots of it. This has both commercial and ruling family origins. All right, that's it. So let's go back. I'm going to give a quick summary just to kind of talk about each one. Number one, caffeine's an alkaloid that kills plant bugs. I talked to a friend about this, and this was his response. Yes, it does contain alkaloids, and those alkaloids repel, but do not kill bugs in a natural environment. All plants have a protection system to repel bugs, because like I said, it's a competitive environment. They become non-competitive, and there's less benefits for human once you start using chemicals and other things, which is a secondary reason to not use chemicals. But quinoa, for example, has their seeds coated in a toxic substance to repel birds. That's why you're supposed to wash quinoa, actually, before you cook it. A lot of times I don't, but that's probably the reasons why. Now, I don't know about this. Please, for all of this, comment below. This is an open discussion forum as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to give you any blanket statements or anything that covers all these decision one way or another on any of these 13 things, except that I will say that coffee is not a health food. Okay, there's no way. I'm not going to say it is, because just like I said, the only drink is straight up pure water. That should be the drink of choice, and you don't need much of it. So number 2, MRI images, the blood flow decrease to the brain. Okay, 2 and 3, coffee, yes, it does affect the brain, but it's positive, promoting neuroplasticity and protecting against dementia. On the other side, if you consume later in the day, it interferes with your sleep. Yes, so do not consume. I would never have anything late in the day either, because I will not sleep at all. The caffeine absolutely affects me. I need to time that. Any of the stuff is definitely a timing issue. It's kind of funny. They don't really tell you that on the product themselves, but you really should, because you could totally screw your sleep up for that. So the number 2 was the blood flow to the brain. That was given a different answer. And then chronic coffee drinker, the same degradation in the brains as alcoholics. Again, I don't know about this, because as far as I'm concerned with Alzheimer's, it's a diabetes type 3 dementia, where it's more the intake of fats that are going to slow it down. So as long as you slow down, halt, or prevent, actually. So as long as you just eat the correct diet, the health optimizing diet, which we promote, you should be fine. But even if you have it, you can reverse it. I don't necessarily think that anything, because this is my friend's response, was what I gave you, is going to improve Alzheimer's by drinking caffeine or something like that. I don't necessarily think that caffeine is a solution to Alzheimer's. I think it's more like the pharmaceutical organizations or companies do, which is they just try to manage symptoms. I'm sure it probably makes symptoms better if somebody's got Alzheimer's and you're ramping up their brain, the blood flow to the brain or whatever, by using caffeine. All right, number 4, urge to move your bowels. Like I said, I agreed with that one right away. Yes, and saying it's been very beneficial to our hormones because it doesn't allow anything to back up. I think that's one of the problems with gut health of people, and we discuss this in the book Live to 150, is that stuff gets stuck in there and you got to flush it out. So I do see this because I definitely recognize the issue or the benefit, depending upon the way you're looking at it, of me going number 2 after I consume coffee. It is a flushing thing. Now, you don't want to do it all the time because, as you can imagine, if that really is a thing with coffee and it's something that coffee is famous for, I think we kind of agree with that. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. But I'm sensing a lot of agreement across the board that yes, coffee causes bowel movements. You don't want to do it every day because what's going to happen is you're going to restrict the absorption of beneficial nutrients into your bloodstream because they're going to get just flushed out way too fast in a way that's not natural. Does that make sense? So that's why, like, for me, I'm okay with having a couple cups maximum over the entire week and not spread out during the week. It's usually just on a weekend. I won't actually, just so you know, I don't drink any of that stuff. At least this is the way I am now. I've kind of moved to this point during the week. No coffee during the week at all. So that's for me. Number 5. Actually, my friend says it was false. Coffee increases energy via the fight or flight. We talked about, so it's like nervous energy, I guess. And I could see that with people, especially if you suffer from anxiety. Having any kind of caffeine is just going to ramp up the anxiety levels. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. That's a double negative. I think we'll all agree with that. So caffeine increases the production of adrenaline and occupies the adrenal receptors, so you don't feel that tired. Great to use in the first part of the day. So, okay, so I guess in a way, if you think about it, if that's what happens, if coffee just increases adrenaline, then you can use it for good, because usually adrenaline is a response to some, it's kind of interesting that my friend said this, because it's a fight or flight, right? Adrenaline is like, oh shit, we're going to fight. So if you channel that and you do it well, I guess it could be a benefit, but just like anything else, if you use it wrong, it can be horrifically detrimental. And so this is, again, my questions with coffee. I will never, ever say you should do this on a daily basis with coffee. And none of this even mentioned the acid load of coffee and acid forming, because that is another big, big negative. So that's number 14, if you want to add that to the list. I can't believe it wasn't mentioned here. I'm just noticing this now. I've read through this a couple times. Number 6, fight or flight response is triggered. It activates lower IQ centers of the brain, right? So you're going to be make less intelligent decisions, more irrational decisions. This is true with alcohol too. It's funny. Why do people make decisions like this? But, okay. Now, my friend's response says that there's no link between caffeine and aggressive behavior. Although I will tell you, I think before all these hard drugs came along, like steroids and things, athletes, and they still do, they will dope or stimulate with caffeine, because athletes, elite athletes, you really need to be aggressive. You need to get super aggressive. They're just channeling in a way that they can do well at a sport, as opposed to inflicting harm on somebody. Although it depends on the sport. Part of the sport is inflicting harm. We're talking football and stuff like that. But produces alert behavior instead. So I don't know. I think that the caffeine probably does do something with aggression. And it's up to the individual as to whether that aggression is positive or negative. I don't have any more feedback from my friends, so I'm going to have to go through this the rest of the way on my own. Number 7. And like I said, my number 14 is the acid load from this. It's very, very bad. All right, when measured with the fight or flight syndrome, they said it had a 3-week, even with just 1 cup of coffee, 3-week, flushing out time of your system on a decreasing basis over the period of 3 weeks. I don't know. If anybody knows any of this information, please let me know in the comments. I'd be very interested to, I don't know if they're talking about just coffee or just caffeine. I think they're saying caffeine, but I don't know. It's hard to say, hard to tell. But if it could be they don't mention, like I said, in here is not mentioned the acid load of the coffee, but it may be that this number 7 is changing or trying to change the negative pH balance in the body as a result of 3 weeks. I can tell you that if I had, in the past when I was drinking some more coffee, and I've never done it on a daily basis, let me get that out of the way. I've never done that. That is definitely a problem, okay, if you're doing that. But if I had too many cups of coffee in too short of a period of time, and for me, it wasn't more than a few, that was too much, way too much. I don't know how people would drink like 5, 6 cups of coffee a day or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they survive, because I would hurt so bad. For me, it was like the acid load. Maybe it's this that they're talking about for three consecutive weeks, because I could feel the buildup, and then I have to do a detox. So I could see how there'd be some little level of benefit, but if right now, at least in running through all these numbers, the only benefit I'm really seeing is flushing out the colon. And like I said, you don't want to do it all the time. It's just better to do it every once in a while to make sure that you don't have literal crap stuck in there, because that's going to cause even more problems. Number 8, limbic part of the brain hyperactivated, only concerned with sex reproduction, territory, food acquisition, personal safety. Most primitive. Okay, that's same thing as the one before, or two of them before. So they're saying there's no intelligent gain by drinking coffee, which is interesting, because if you go to the different coffee shops, people who are the self-proclaimed intellectuals tend to hang out there as opposed to at other places. So let me know what you think about that one. Number 9, birth control pill. So they're saying, I don't know. I've never done any kind of research or deep dive onto, basically, I'd say regular coffee drinking women of childbearing age that are on the birth control pill. There may be some kind of connection here. I just have no idea. And it would be very interesting to hear if it does. So let me know in the comments. Number 10, coffee is proven to cause enlarged prostate, all these other issues, all kinds of negative. Now, I just don't know. I think they're overstepping their bounds by saying all these things. Because when I go through this whole list of health issues at number 10, I feel like it's almost as long as all of the list that we have and we talk about on a regular basis of things that are within your control in terms of lifestyle, in terms of eating health optimizing foods, and halting, preventing, or reversing these things versus you getting them and staying with you, even if you're on maintenance pharmaceuticals, they're never going to go away. So I am very skeptical about this one, although I'm sure it's not optimal because it's not pure water, the beverage of choice. It's some type of highly processed version of a bean, and then of course we talk about that all the time, especially in the Live to 150 book. You want to have more food as grown. Coffee beans are not grown as a liquid without any fiber in them, if you think about that. So that's where I'm going to land with that one. Number 11, coffee causes fat, the whole fat gain versus, so the body holding calories in fat versus the body holding it in sugars, glucose. I just don't know. If you guys know, let me know. I just don't know. That would be very interesting though. So, but they're also saying it's not the coffee, although coffee is being talked about here. It's the caffeine. Like if you're ingesting too much caffeine, I guess, depending upon your body type, depending upon your personality, your genetic makeup, some level of regular caffeine is going to shift your body into holding calories and fat versus holding them in sugar. So let me know your comments on that. I just have never done any research. I don't know. I never even thought about this until I read this article. So always good to think and consider new things. Number 12, caffeine blocks iron absorption, causing the vast majority of anemia today. So if you have anemia, what are the likelihood that you're a coffee drinker or a caffeine consumer? Because they have coffee/caffeine. If you're let's put it this way, let me rephrase. If you are a daily habitual caffeine addict, all right, meaning you go every single day, you have caffeine of some type, and usually multiple doses. That's what I would say. What kind of a percentage increase in anemia does that cause? I don't know. I would think that, if we're talking about coffee specifically, because just caffeine doesn't necessarily move your bowels. But one of the things we talked about earlier was bowels, and I basically agreed with most of what was said there. If coffee is going to move your bowels and you're having it every single day, like I said, it's too much. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. You know, it's like it's not going to be beneficial anymore. It's just like so many other things. I've used examples before of running too many distances, weightlifting, lifting ridiculously heavy weights. You cross the boundary between health promoting to health destroying. So I can see that. I don't know if it's just anemia. I would think it might be other mineral nutrient deficiencies as well. So let me know your comments on that. But this makes a lot of sense to me. So anything that contains caffeine, but specifically coffee, caffeine may be nutrient robbing in the way that dairy is nutrient robbing. I don't know. You know, maybe enough people haven't looked into this. I'm sure the coffee lobby, as has been mentioned, is just like the animal product industry. It just doesn't want any of that to happen. And you can imagine why. They don't want people looking into that. Number 13, scientific research. There's absolutely no scientific evidence that provides any health benefits. So I completely agree. I would never classify coffee as a health food. The only thing that remotely thinks that I think is a health benefit revolves around the diuretic. I think it's diuretic, or what do you call it when your bowels move? Enema effects of coffee. All right, that's it. It's effectively an enema. It's going to make you have bowel movements. And there are some that do coffee cleanses. And the way they do it, actually, from what I understand, I've never done it or even taken a deep dive into learning about it, but it's done as an enema, actually, because apparently something in the coffee, you want it directly activating stuff in your colon to flush everything out. So yeah, it's not a health food, and that would be the only way I would think it would be. So if somebody's got the twisted idea that coffee is a health food, it's very, very twisted. It could be had in limited quantities only. It's truly like a junk food to me. Just like vegan junk food, plant-based junk food. Yeah, you want to have an enjoyment every once in a long while. You do not want to do this on a regular basis. And I would not necessarily, this is just me talking, but I would not necessarily equate coffee and caffeine as together, because the coffee form of caffeine has so many different aspects and attributes to it that are unique to coffee that I would not lump the two together the way this article has done this. I'm just talking specifically as coffee, and this video is really talking specifically as coffee. Maybe I'll do another video in the future where I talk only about caffeine, but for this one, it's just coffee. So the takeaway is coffee is a junk food. Coffee is not health food. Coffee has some type of, under extremely limited use, benefits of flushing out the colon, just like red wine has some extremely limited use ways of doing it. But just like red wine, there are probably other better ways, like eating lots of fiber, or things that are known to clear yourself out, like blueberries. If you eat a ton of blueberries, man, you are going to go to the bathroom. Like number 2, fast, but just keep that fiber high. And it's kind of ironic that coffee, the one potential benefit from coffee is clearing out your colon, and yet coffee doesn't have any fiber in it, which is the best way to clean out your colon. So that's my summary on this whole thing. I look forward to reading your comments. If you got some value out of this, please like the video, and of course, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.